Welcome back to Freedom in the Word. I am Minister Sherry Knotts.
And I'm Minister David Roundtree.
And we are back as promised. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, our expert. He's going to be talking with us about grief and what that is. And I think we said we were going to talk about mourning and bereavement as well.
Yeah, we're going to define those terms.
All right, have at it.
Okay, well, first of all, grief is basically our reaction to different losses, right? So it's not always in the death of something. It could be in the death of a pet or a person or people in general, but it could also be a reaction to a breakup or a divorce. It could be a reaction to leaving a city and being in another city. So it's a reaction to some type of loss. So that would be grief. Sometimes we use grief and mourning interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
So mourning would refer to the expression of grief,
Okay.
right? So the crying, the tears, the sobbing, those things would be referred to as mourning. And then the bereavement would refer to the period of time in which we do those things. So sometimes we use all of those words interchangeably, but that would be, in a nutshell, the definition of those words.
So with that now, help me out. So bereavement, because we hear, the bereaved family.
Mm-hmm.
What does that really mean in the grand scheme? So we're using that word wrong, pretty much.
Well, no, it's talking about the time period. Mm-hmm. So this family is grieving. They're suffering a loss. So this would refer to the time period. So this is their time of dealing with all of the loss, the reaction to the losing of the loved one.
Okay, and so that also will refer to the final preparation.
Absolutely,
and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Getting the family in.
Absolutely.
Make sure that life insurance policy.
Absolutely,
is
yeah,
cashed in.
that's very important.
Getting the dimes together.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, also with that, what's healthy? What's a healthy amount of time for grieving?
Okay. Typically, and we would say this, I guess you'll hear like clinicians say between maybe a year and a half max.
Wow.
Anything beyond that is considered complicated grief.
Okay.
So there's some other issues that cause a person to get stuck.
Okay.
And unfortunately, with many African Americans, when it comes to the loss of our loved ones, we typically we're traumatized during that period.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that will cause us to get stuck and to actually go beyond the normal grief period.
Because Big Mama was 115 years old.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't her time to go.
Absolutely.
God took her too soon.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'll find things like that in John chapter 11, for example, when you see the passing or the death of Lazarus.
Yeah.
You see the two sisters who came and basically blamed Jesus, saying, if you had been here, he wouldn't have gone, he wouldn't have died. So you'll see, people and grieving. Also in the sense of the bereavement period, that's not a good time to make major decisions, right?
Right. That's why we need to have our business fixed. I went to school and got my degree in funeral services. A lot of people don't know that. So not only can I take care of you while you're living, I can embalm you, I can direct your funeral, put you in the ground, I can do all that.
I'm glad you let me know.
Amen. Amen. Learned a lot. But during that time, I remember going to my parents saying, hey, we need to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your final arrangements. What are your wishes? Let's go ahead and put something in writing. My dad was very uncomfortable, still is, very uncomfortable with that conversation, but it saves a lot of confusion.
Absolutely.
My dad has children that are not with my mother. So another part of that for me and my sister that I was not saying that they're not all my sisters, but the sister that I was raised in the home with.
Right.
To me, it would make things a lot simpler for everybody if my dad especially would get his papers together.
Right.
So there's no confusion.
And I think it goes back to the state of, and I'm getting ready to irritate every English teacher, but this world ain't our home.
That's right.
Right? So
That's
we don't
right.
have permanent bodies that are designed to stay here forever. Right? So even if Big Mama is 115 years old, or if so-and-so has passed at 70 or 80 or something like that, it's just an indication that one day we'll have to walk those same steps.
That's right.
So we do have to prepare. We do have to make sure that the persons that we leave here, we leave a legacy for them as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to grief when you were saying our reaction to something. What does the reaction to something or to losing something, what does that look like for people?
That's a very good question. About 40, maybe 50 years ago, a lady, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She's credited for the 5 stages of death, right? So she's studied death and how we grieve, not the 5 stages of death, but the 5 stages of grief. And she said that those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Another thing about it, grief sometimes shows up. Somebody might break out in hives. Somebody might go into an asthma attack. I was at my great uncle's funeral. One of his granddaughters, she had an asthma attack. That was, she was so overwhelmed with emotion. She had an asthma attack. Some people, their skin breaks out. Some people, they can't eat. Some people overeat. Some people, they might get a banging headache. So those are signs or ways that grief can show up in your life as well. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think we need to be mindful of our appetite.
Yeah.
During those times, we need to be mindful of our sleep patterns. We need to be mindful. Absolutely. And we need to be mindful of each other. So not just me taking care of me, I'm good, but we need to check in on our family as well.
Let me ask you this. There's a family that I know from my back home. Normally, as soon as somebody hear about the death, here come everybody. They want to come over. They coming over with, now they do paper towels and things like that. But this particular family, they did not want visitors. Their thing of it was, we'll see y'all at the funeral. And I thought how brave this family was to sit and like, no, we don't want any visitors. And in fact, I told my parents, I said, unless y'all put something in writing, that will be my response. I'm gonna, because they have two, the driveway does a loop. I said, I'm gonna park the cars down at the end of the driveways. I'm not answering the phone. I will put a message on there to tell them, please contact the funeral home for all arrangements and respect our privacy during this time.
Okay.
That's, just because for me, I don't want all those people in the house. When my mother's mother passed away, everything was at my mom's house. And I was there, some people came over to visit. And one of the guests had the audacity to tell me to fix her a plate. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm the bereaved family, So I was just thinking about that. And then that's a very private moment. So I say that because I want someone to respect someone's right to have their home to themselves. And we know during the time of COVID, which is why we are talking about grief and mourning and all of that, because of all the deaths and all the loss that we're having during this time. You really can't, or not supposed to, or is not wise to pile up at someone's home during this time. So we just want you to be mindful of that, to be safe and just respectful of how someone chooses to have company or not have company. Because when we get the condolence notices via email, sometimes they'll say at this time they're requesting no phone calls, no visitors, and we have to respect that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, with all that being said, do you have any closing thoughts when it comes to grief, mourning, and bereavement?
I just think that when it comes to those things, to know that we are all individuals, so we all do it our way. There's no set way to do any of that. So just make sure that you take care of yourself, take care of others as well. That's it. All
right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we shall come back on our next segment. We're going to be talking about the stages of grief. In the meantime, I am Minister Sherry Dotts.
And I'm David Roundtree.
And we'll be talking to you soon. God bless you.